The story of Jacob and Joseph is one of betrayal, forgiveness, and ultimately, a powerful family reunion. But was it truly a happy ending? This video dives deep into the complexities of their relationship, exploring the lingering tension and the unexpected rise of Joseph to power in Egypt. Did the reunion truly heal old wounds, or were there deeper secrets at play? We'll also test your knowledge with a challenging quiz to see how well you remember this captivating tale. So grab your thinking cap and hit play to explore the story of Jacob and Joseph, beyond forgiveness, from lies to legacy. If you want to keep your Bible knowledge sharp and have some fun testing yourself each week, then hit that subscribe button. 1. Who accompanied Jacob to Egypt? Your options are: only his sons, only his grandsons, his entire family, his servants. The answer is, his entire family. Jacob traveled to Egypt with his entire family, including his sons, grandsons, and other relatives, Genesis 46 verses 5 to 7. 2. How many direct descendants of Jacob went to Egypt? Your options are: 60, 66, 70, 72. The answer is 66. The direct descendants of Jacob who went to Egypt numbered 66, excluding his sons' wives, Genesis 46 verse 26. 3. Which son of Jacob did he send ahead to Joseph in Goshen? Your options are: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah. The answer is Judah. Jacob sent Judah ahead to Joseph in Goshen to get directions to the region, Genesis 46 verse 28. 4. What did Joseph ride in when he went to meet his father Jacob? Your options are: a horse, a camel, a chariot, a cart. The answer is a chariot. Joseph rode in his chariot to meet his father Jacob when he arrived in Goshen, Genesis 46 verse 29. 5. What was Jacob's reaction upon seeing Joseph? Your options are: anger, joy, sadness, indifference. The answer is joy. Jacob was overwhelmed with joy upon seeing Joseph, and he embraced him, Genesis 46 verse 29. 6. What did Pharaoh offer to Jacob and his family? Your options are: wealth, land, slaves, livestock. The answer is land. Pharaoh offered the best land of Egypt, the land of Goshen, to Jacob and his family, Genesis 47 verse 6. 7. What occupation did Joseph tell Pharaoh his family had? Your options are: farmers, merchants, shepherds, fishermen. The answer is shepherds. Joseph told Pharaoh that his family were shepherds, as they had been for generations, Genesis 46 verse 34. 8. How did the Egyptians feel about shepherds? Your options are: respected them, disliked them, envied them, ignored them. The answer is: disliked them. The Egyptians disliked shepherds, considering them detestable. Genesis 46 verse 34. 9. How old was Jacob when he met Pharaoh? Your options are: 120, 130, 140, 150. The answer is 130. Jacob was 130 years old when he met Pharaoh. Genesis 47 verse 9. 10. What did Jacob do when he met Pharaoh? Your options are: gave him a gift, bowed before him, blessed him, ignored him. The answer is: blessed him. Jacob blessed Pharaoh when he met him. Genesis 47 verse 7. 11. How long did Jacob live in Egypt? Your options are: 7 years, 14 years, 17 years, 21 years. The answer is 17 years. Jacob lived in Egypt for 17 years until his death at the age of 147. Genesis 47 verse 28. 12. What did Jacob make Joseph swear to do upon his death? Your options are: bury him in Egypt, bury him in Canaan, divide his wealth equally, take care of his family. The answer is: bury him in Canaan. Jacob made Joseph swear to bury him in Canaan with his ancestors. Genesis 47 verses 29 to 30. 13. Who was blessed first by Jacob among Joseph's sons? Your options are: Manasseh, Ephraim, Levi, Judah. The answer is Ephraim. Jacob blessed Ephraim first, even though he was the younger son. Genesis 48 verse 14. 14. How did Joseph react when Jacob blessed Ephraim first? Your options are: he was pleased, he was indifferent, he was angry, he was confused. The answer is: he was angry. Joseph was angry and tried to correct Jacob, as Manasseh was the firstborn. Genesis 48 verses 17 to 18. 15. Which tribe is prophesied to produce kings in Jacob's blessing? Your options are: Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah. The answer is Judah. Jacob prophesied that kings, including the Messiah, would come from the tribe of Judah. Genesis 49 verse 10. 16. Which son of Jacob was described as a raw-boned donkey in the blessing? Your options are: Reuben, Issachar, Zebulun, Dan. The answer is Issachar. Issachar was described as a raw-boned donkey, lying down between two burdens, Genesis 49 verse 14. 17. How did Jacob describe Naphtali in his blessing? Your options are, a lion, a doe, a serpent, a wolf. The answer is, a doe. Jacob described Naphtali as a doe set free that bears beautiful fawns, Genesis 49 verse 21. 18. Which son did Jacob describe as a serpent by the roadside? Your options are, Dan, Gad, Asher, Benjamin. The answer is, Dan. Jacob described Dan as a serpent by the roadside, a viper along the path, Genesis 49 verse 17. 19. How did Jacob describe Benjamin in his blessing? Your options are, a ravenous wolf, a fierce lion, a cunning fox, a swift eagle. The answer is, a ravenous wolf. Jacob described Benjamin as a ravenous wolf, in the morning devouring the prey and in the evening dividing the plunder, Genesis 49 verse 27. 20. What did Jacob say about Joseph in his blessing? Your options are, would struggle, be prosperous, be a wild donkey, be a warrior. The answer is, be prosperous. Jacob blessed Joseph, saying he would be prosperous and a fruitful vine near a spring, Genesis 49 verse 22. 21. Where did Jacob ask to be buried? Your options are, in Egypt, in Goshen, in Field of Machpelah, by the Nile River. The answer is, in Field of Machpelah. Jacob asked to be buried in the Field of Machpelah, where Abraham, Sarah, Isaac, Rebekah, and Leah were buried, Genesis 49 verses 29 to 31. 22. Who went up to bury Jacob? Your options are, only Joseph, only his sons, all Pharaoh's officials, only Judah. The answer is, all Pharaoh's officials. All Pharaoh's officials, the dignitaries of his court, and Jacob's family went up to bury him, Genesis 50 verse 7. 23. How long did the Egyptians mourn for Jacob? Your options are, 10 days, 30 days, 40 days, 70 days. The answer is, 70 days. The Egyptians mourned for Jacob for 70 days, Genesis 50 verse 3. 24. Where was Jacob buried? Your options are, in the Nile Delta, Field of Machpelah, Valley of the Kings, in Goshen. The answer is, Field of Machpelah. Jacob was buried in the Field of Machpelah in Canaan, as he had requested, Genesis 50 verse 13. 25. What message did Joseph's brothers send to him after Jacob's death? Your options are: a plea for forgiveness, a request for inheritance, a message of thanks, a threat. The answer is a plea for forgiveness. Joseph's brothers sent a plea for forgiveness, asking him to forgive their past sins against him. Genesis 50 verses 16 to 17. 26. What was Joseph's response to his brothers' plea for forgiveness? Your options are: he ignored them, he forgave them, he punished them, he rewarded them. The answer is, he forgave them. Joseph forgave his brothers, assuring them that God had a plan for good through their actions. Genesis 50 verses 19 to 21. 27. How old was Joseph when he died? Your options are: 90, 110, 120, 130. The answer is 110. Joseph died at the age of 110, Genesis 50 verse 26. 28. Where did Joseph ask to be buried? Your options are: in Egypt, in the Nile Delta, in Canaan, in Goshen. The answer is, in Canaan. Joseph asked to be buried in Canaan, alongside his ancestors, Genesis 50 verse 25. 29. Who embalmed Joseph's body? Your options are: his sons, Pharaoh's physicians, his brothers, Egyptian priests. The answer is, Pharaoh's physicians. Pharaoh's physicians embalmed Joseph's body after his death, Genesis 50 verse 2. 30. What oath did Joseph make the sons of Israel swear? Your options are: to protect his family, to build a monument for him, to take his bones out of Egypt, to follow God faithfully. The answer is, to take his bones out of Egypt. Joseph made the sons of Israel swear to take his bones out of Egypt when God would lead them to the promised land, Genesis 50 verse 25. 31. What did Jacob prophesy about Judah's descendants? Your options are: would be wealthy, would be powerful, would rule, would be wise. The answer is, would rule. Jacob prophesied that Judah's descendants would produce rulers and ultimately the Messiah, Genesis 49 verse 10. 32. How did Jacob describe Joseph's future in his blessing? Your options are: struggle, prosperity, peacefulness, wealth. The answer is, prosperity. Jacob described Joseph's future as prosperous and fruitful, Genesis 49 verses 22 to 26. 33. How did Jacob describe Issachar in his blessing? Your options are, a lion, a strong ox, a sheep, a raw-boned donkey. The answer is, a raw-boned donkey. Jacob described Issachar as a raw-boned donkey lying between burdens, Genesis 49 verse 14. 34. Which tribe did Jacob say would judge his people? Your options are, Judah, Simeon, Dan, Asher. The answer is, Dan. Jacob said that Dan would judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel, Genesis 49 verse 16. 35. How did Jacob describe Gad in his blessing? Your options are, a fierce lion, a cunning fox, a wolf, a troop of raiders. The answer is, a troop of raiders. Jacob described Gad as a troop of raiders who would attack, but he would attack them at their heels, Genesis 49 verse 19. 36. How did Jacob describe Asher in his blessing? Your options are, wealthy, fearless, a supplier of royal delicacies, a cunning hunter. The answer is, a supplier of royal delicacies. Jacob described Asher as a supplier of royal delicacies, Genesis 49 verse 20. 37. Which son was described by Jacob as, a fruitful vine near a spring? Your options are, Judah, Joseph, Reuben, Zebulun. The answer is, Joseph. Jacob described Joseph as a fruitful vine near a spring, whose branches climb over a wall, Genesis 49 verse 22. 38. What did Jacob predict about Simeon and Levi's future? Your options are, would be blessed, divided and scattered, lead the tribes, would be kings. The answer is, divided and scattered. Jacob predicted that Simeon and Levi would be divided and scattered in Israel due to their violence, Genesis 49 verses 5 to 7. 39. What did Jacob say about Reuben's future would be? Your options are, would be blessed, unstable as water, be a leader, be wise. The answer is, unstable as water. Jacob said Reuben would be unstable as water and not excel because he defiled his father's bed, Genesis 49 verse 4. 40. How did Jacob describe Zebulun's future? Your options are, a harbor for ships, a fierce warrior, a rich landowner, a powerful leader. The answer is, a harbor for ships. Jacob described Zebulun as living by the seashore and becoming a haven for ships, Genesis 49 verse 13. 41. What did Joseph do with the Egyptians' land during the famine? Your options are: distributed it, bought it for Pharaoh, left it uncultivated, sold it to foreigners. The answer is, bought it for Pharaoh. During the famine, Joseph bought all the land in Egypt for Pharaoh, except that of the priests, Genesis 47 verses 20 to 22. 42. Who did Jacob tell his sons would carry his body to Canaan for burial? Your options are: his sons, his grandsons, his servants, Pharaoh's officials. The answer is, his sons. Jacob told his sons to carry his body to Canaan for burial in the cave of Machpelah, Genesis 50 verse 13. 43. Where did Joseph wish to be buried after his death? Your options are: Nile Delta, in Canaan, embalmed and buried in Egypt, cremated. The answer is, in Canaan. Joseph requested that his bones be carried out of Egypt and buried in Canaan when God delivered the Israelites, Genesis 50 verse 25. 44. How did Jacob bless each of his sons according to? Your options are: their past deeds, his preference, potential, equally. The answer is, their past deeds. Jacob blessed each of his sons according to their past deeds and future potential, Genesis 49 verses 1 to 27. 45. How did Joseph ensure the survival of the Egyptians during the famine? Your options are: by selling grain, by giving them land, by providing jobs, by selling them into slavery. The answer is, by selling grain. Joseph ensured the survival of the Egyptians by selling them grain during the 7 years of famine, Genesis 47 verses 13 to 14.